Post-structuralism is a philosophical and literary theory that challenges the idea that meaning is fixed and stable. It argues that language, texts, and ideas can have many different interpretations, depending on context and the individual perspectives of the people interpreting them. In other words, post-structuralism suggests that there is no single correct meaning for anything, and that meaning is always shifting and changing based on how we use language and how we experience the world. Post-structuralism emerged in the mid-20th century as a response to an earlier way of thinking called structuralism. Structuralism focused on the belief that language and ideas were organized into clear, predictable structures, much like the rules of grammar or the patterns in a story. Structuralists thought that by analyzing these structures, we could uncover the true, underlying meanings of texts or ideas. Post-structuralists disagreed. They argued that language is not that simple, and that meaning is much more complex. According to post-structuralism, words and ideas are not stable because they are always influenced by context, culture, and personal experiences. This makes meaning fluid and open to multiple interpretations, rather than something that can be neatly defined or understood. An example of post-structuralism in practice can be seen in literature. Imagine two people reading the same book, but one reader is from a wealthy background and the other comes from a poor community. The way each person interprets the story might be very different. For instance, if the book features a rich character who donates money to charity, one reader might see this character as generous and kind, while the other reader might view them as trying to buy approval or hide their guilt. Post-structuralism would say that both interpretations are valid because the meaning of the text changes depending on who is reading it and their personal experiences. Another example is how people interpret history. The same event might be viewed as heroic or tragic, depending on who is telling the story and what perspective they are using. One of the strengths of post-structuralism is that it embraces the complexity of meaning. It encourages people to question what they think they know and to look for new, different ways of understanding the world. This flexibility can be empowering because it shows that there is more than one way to interpret something and that every perspective has value. Post-structuralism also helps to challenge traditional power structures by showing how dominant interpretations, like those in history or literature, can be influenced by those in power. By questioning these interpretations, post-structuralism allows for a wider range of voices and perspectives to be heard. However, post-structuralism is not without its weaknesses. One major criticism is that it can lead to a sense of uncertainty. If everything can be interpreted in many different ways and there is no correct meaning, it can be difficult to make decisions or come to an agreement. This is especially challenging in situations where people need to agree on basic facts or truths, like in science or law. Critics also argue that post-structuralism can make it harder to take action because it complicates the idea of right and wrong. If all interpretations are valid, it can be difficult to argue for one course of action over another. Additionally, some people believe that post-structuralism goes too far in its rejection of stable meaning, making it harder to communicate clearly or build shared understanding. An influential theorist in post-structuralism is Michel Foucault. To learn about Foucault's ideas on truth, power, and knowledge, watch this video next.